So what kind of advice do I have about difficult monetary situation with exchange rate fluctuations? I wish I could say that there's an easy answer to that question, but unfortunately it's a challenge for any organization as well as a challenge for any individual. I mean, basically what you're doing is you're combining a situation where living standards have fallen, which is part of what happens when you have exchange rate fluctuations like Ukraine has seen recently, with a situation where relative prices have changed, where goods that are made elsewhere become more expensive than goods made here in Ukraine. So the first issue with living standards falling is basically a matter of whether or not it's possible to find customers, and what do you do with your prices in order to stay competitive and match demand but still be able to make a profit. And there's no easy answer to that question, I think. The second topic of relative price changes, I think, is a matter of at least having a plan and thinking about, how dependent is your company on materials brought in from other countries, and to what extent maybe can you sell goods and services outside of the country to other countries. So there's no easy answer, but I do think it's possible to have a plan to anticipate, so that when a situation like this happens, that you're prepared to deal with it as best you can. Yeah, so the possibilities for moving from an industrial economy to a post-industrial economy, I think they're present. It's a matter of taking advantage of opportunities when they arise. As an economist, I think a lot about the tax system and how to possibly change the tax system in order to take advantage of opportunities when they come up. So for example, if you have a tax system that emphasizes subsidies for fossil fuels, for example, which at least historically there have been many of in the Ukraine, then you sort of encourage the industrial economy and you make it a little bit more difficult to move to a new economy. If you change the tax system in a way to perhaps lower subsidies on fossil fuels, or perhaps even have taxes on fossil fuels, and reduce taxes, or perhaps create subsidies for new economy businesses, then that can be a way to provide incentives for businesses, for students, for individuals, for startup companies to sort of think about new ways of doing business, to move from that industrial economy system to a post-industrial economy system. So when it comes to management types, whether it's hierarchical or can you go to a 2D or 3D matrix system, I have to say that the nice thing about being an economist is that we have an easy answer to that question, because economists assume that businesses are profit maximizing and that businesses are already run the best way that they could possibly be run. So that's kind of the difference between being an economist and being a business person, is that economists sort of assume what the business person is ultimately trying to do, which is to take an organizational structure and make it efficient. So I don't have any particular insights into that question, mostly because I come from this discipline where we assume that businesses are already doing everything correctly. I do think, however, that with advances in technology and with some advances in management practices, it should be possible to sort of flatten out organizational structures so that you have less hierarchy and more of a flat structure. That's not to say that you can get rid of hierarchy entirely. Eventually, when push comes to shove, somebody's got to make decisions, so you need to have some sort of decision-making structure. But I think you can possibly get rid of some of the layers of hierarchy and move to a flatter system. Will the human economy ever be eco-friendly? I think it can, and I have great optimism in that, and this is actually the area of economics that I study. And I work on using the tools of economics and the power of capitalism to protect the environment. And it's one of the reasons why I wear this t-shirt. This is my Enjoy Capitalism t-shirt. And one reason I have this t-shirt is because I think that it is possible to use the tools of economics and the power of capitalism to protect the environment. So one way to do that is with again, with changing tax systems. So if you think about having taxes on pollution, or more generally taxes on bad things, and having lower taxes on good things, so if you have taxes on carbon emissions or other types of pollution, and then you can use the revenue from that tax to reduce taxes on businesses, on labor, on income, on investment, then I think that is a better way to line up private incentives from profit-maximizing companies and individuals with social goals. So society wants to create jobs, society wants to reduce pollution, and if we think about changing the tax system in a way to promote that, then it will be easier to bring about that harmony that we're all looking for between the economy and the environment. So economics can be, as is sometimes called, a dismal science. Especially if you get lost in the math or troubling news, then you can lose sight of the fact that, that economics actually is a fascinating topic, and that there's a lot of interesting material and a lot of interesting stories. So my advice, if you happen to have lost the idea that economics can be fun, partly I'd encourage you to read some of the books that have come out lately. I have a couple of cartoon economics books, but there are plenty of other books, Freakonomics, Naked Economics, kind of these popular books about economics that tell interesting stories that kind of get at economics in a way that's different than just going through all the equations or trying to hit you over the head with theories. So I think that thinking about some of those interesting stories and thinking about the interesting personalities in economics. There have been a number of fascinating economists, John Maynard Keynes, John Nash more recently. They have very interesting life stories, and so learning about those life stories is another way, I think, to sort of rekindle the passion for economics that really everybody should have, because it is a terrifically interesting subject matter and a very important one.